Overrated, underrated, accurately rated, part 1. Okay, in this series, we're going to see which fighters are not who the fans say they are. Okay, let me clarify something real fast. Overrated does not mean bad, underrated does not mean good. Overrated means that they are worse, even if just by a little bit, than the fans say they are. Underrated means that they are better, even if just by a little bit, than the fans say they are. But without further ado, Conor McGregor. Overrated aspects of his game is probably his defense and his kicking the most. Defense is in, like, I've seen him take some shots. We've seen him get dropped by Khabib. We've seen him get hit hard by Nate Diaz and, eat some combos by Chad Mendes. And none of those are bad strikers. Khabib, you might argue, is on the bad side, but, he set it up with, a fake takedown attempt. You know what I mean? And I just feel that his defense, a lot of people associate it just because they know that he's regarded as one of the top strikers of all time. They associate it with him being so untouchable or whatever, but he never really was. Everybody was able to find Conor McGregor's chin, right? But for reasons I'll get into for a little bit, he's able to just eat it. Okay, so I don't think that it's really that he has the best defense of all time, but I feel like it's just he has other attributes that make it so that it's not the end of the world. Now, his defense is still good. He's able to just control where he sits within the octagon in order to prevent the person from hitting him to begin with, which is kind of a separate type of defense. But I've never been all like, Conor McGregor has the best guard in the world. Conor McGregor has the best head movement in the world. No. But kicking, that's another thing. People will sit there with a straight face and act like Conor McGregor has the best, karate Wonder Boy-esque kicks of all time, just because he stands in kind of a karate stance, And if you point it out, they'll start quoting Joe Rogan and be like, "Oh, well, those kicks are probes. They're not meant to do that." What has he done specifically with a kick? Tell me off the top of your head what he's done specifically with a kick. His kicks are decent, but they're not the most life-changing thing. The most notable thing I think he's done using kicks is maybe peppering Nate Diaz up with some leg kicks, and that's Nate Diaz, you know what I mean? He's got good kicks, but they are, average for the division, you know what I mean? He has good athleticism, but for whatever reason, they don't stand out within his division compared to his punches, which are exceptional, right? Underrated aspects of his game, his chin, okay? He eats bombs. The shots that have landed on him are dropping most people. Jose Aldo has how many, first round, knockouts or whatever. And then Conor McGregor sleeps him in 13 seconds, not by just cleanly, I hit you, you don't hit me, hit and don't get hit type of striking. No, he goes out there and he draws out the shot. He gets hit in he lands a shot at the same time. Am I making sense right now? So it's not a matter of, oh, his defense was amazing. No, it's a matter of he has a technical, this is a technical ability. This isn't brawling where you're just able to blindly close your eyes and hope to not get knocked out. No, he's able to pick which shots he's willing to get hit by because he's able to rely on his chin, which is exceptionally above average. It's probably in the top 10 percentile of people in the UFC. And then next up, grappling. People act like he has poor grappling just because he's getting out grappled by Nate Diaz and Khabib when he's tired. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. I don't even feel like I need to say too much more on that, but who made his grappling look bad? Oh, he got taken down by Chad Mendes. Yeah, these are good grapplers. I don't think Conor McGregor is a good grappler himself, but he's a very average UFC grappler. I don't think he's terrible. I don't think he's the best in the world either. But what he is the best at is this aura differential. Okay, so if you look at some of the fighters that he's beaten, okay, in some of the fighters that he's lost to, the ones that he's losing to are like, oh, I'm Nate Diaz. I don't care who Conor McGregor is. I'll fight you, Conor. And Khabib's gonna go out there and just, oh, brother, I smash. You talk about my family, I smash. They don't care. They don't care who Conor McGregor is. Dustin Poirier doesn't care who Conor McGregor is. He's fought 14 quadrillion times. He doesn't care who Conor McGregor is, But it's these guys that might have never seen the lights shining so bright with the 50 bajillion pay-per-view buys because it's a Conor fight. You know what I mean? Those are the guys that Conor McGregor's able to get in their head, and he calls Jose Aldo a bajillion times before their fight and gets in their head and makes them hesitate and all this stuff, you know, that aura differential, nobody had that like Conor McGregor, where it's like, oh, I'm fighting Conor. Not everybody's susceptible to it, but when they are, Conor is just different. Underrated. Khabib, overrated attributes, his finishes and his takedowns in the open. Okay, so a lot of people think that Khabib is like, oh, I wish I had submissions like Khabib. Oh, I wish I could TKO people like Khabib. He really doesn't have. If you look at his record, he doesn't have too many times where it's like, oh, he TKO'd 2 people, then he submitted 3 people. Like, he wasn't known for getting like these long strings of like, oh, finish, 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 until he already was getting into his title defenses, right? He would submit Michael Johnson here, okay, decision, and then he, you know, that's how it would go. Like he would maybe finish one person and then win a couple decisions, and then TKO another person and then win a couple decisions. He wasn't known for that. He sort of upped into the, oh, I'm a dominant force, I better dominate, I better submit, I better finish fights, when he was already champion. And then next up, takedowns out in the open. Maybe you guys are already hip to this, but it's like, he never was really this guy that would go out there and just blast W in the middle of the cage. He would get you to the wall and work takedowns from there. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like some people associate with him with just having like the best takedowns overall. He had effective takedowns against the cage, decent takedowns out in the open. I don't think they're the best in the world. I don't think they're the worst. He had excellent takedown defense. Not that too many people were shooting takedowns on him, but even just as far as like making people feel that they can't, like that's an element of defense, you know? So people didn't really take him down. He took you down against the cage. He sometimes took you down out in the open, but he was not known for that. And then underrated elements. His jab. So this is something that I call controlling the negative. The negative is pretty much going to be like, they're not actually doing anything. It's like invisible fighting. You can't see that it's working, but it is, because if Khabib didn't have his jab and he was just standing there fumbling around like an idiot, he'd just be getting popped up on the feet nonstop. But because he has a jab, people have to respect that he has a jab. If you step too close, he will jab you. If you know, you aren't moving your head, if you aren't blocking actively, he will jab you. So he's not controlling it like he's GSP or something, but he's doing enough to keep you occupied enough that he can set up his takedowns, and that it's stopping you from getting your timing and your rhythm on your striking. Okay, you could even see in like the Justin Gaethje fight that he was sort of controlling him with that jab. He was eating the worst shots. That doesn't mean that he's the best striker in the universe, but he was eating the worst shots and could have potentially been getting outstruck significantly worse if not for the fact that he's one of the only MMA fighters in the UFC with a pretty good jab. And then next up, the strength of schedule. I mean, you just look at the guys that he's beat: Michael Johnson, RDA, Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, you know, Justin Gaethje, you know, Gleason Tebow, and oh, dude, you're reaching. You're talking about Gleason Tebow, Edson Barboza, you know, and you might be saying all that, but it's like, if I were to talk about Anderson Silva, or if I were to talk about Demetrius Johnson, right? People would go out there and be listing, you know, the most ridiculous names, you know. Even for Anderson Silva, one of the better names on his resume. Oh, Forrest Griffin. That's not as good as even an Edson Barboza, in my opinion. You know? It's just a fact. You know what I mean? But my point in saying this is, like, people will love to go out there and hate and be all like, oh, he only has 3 title defenses. But it's like, when you consider all of the people that have the 52 bajillion title defenses, a lot of those names, other than the fact that they were won during a title fight, are not actually better names than what is on Khabib's resume. He doesn't have the best resume of all time, but it's not a bad one either. Okay, and then his best attribute is just making them fight his fight. Okay, hopefully you understand what I mean by that, but it's like, he likes to jab you enough to get you moving backwards, to take you down. If he can't jab you, then, you know, you might overextend on him and he takes you down. If you start out striking him, he might, you know, switch up things by circling around you, and now your back is on the fence and he takes you down. But he sticks to the game plan. Okay? Jared grapples approved. And then lastly, Israel Adesanya. Overrated aspects, his dominance, man. People go out there and see him having a staring contest with Yoel Romero, with Marvin Vettori, with Jared Cannonier, with Jan Blachowicz, even though that wasn't a title defense, but and they'll be all like, oh, this was dominant. No. Close fights are not dominance. Okay, I'm sorry. That's all that I'll say on that. But plus, arguably lost some of that, so it's not all that I'll say. Arguably lost the Robert Whittaker 2 fight. Arguably lost the Yoel Romero fight. Fight IQ, it's good, but he's not making the most, mid-fight adjustments or anything like that to where I'll be all like, yeah, this is excellent fight IQ. It's not. I'm sorry. He hasn't done anything to prove to me that he deserves to be called the fight IQ genius that people associate him with, And then defense, he's hittable. He has kind of this tall man defense where he just kind of leans away and throws a couple hooks. But when he's fighting people taller than him, that does not work. And then even when he's fighting people shorter than him, if they're able to just get inside and find an angle to jab and throw some straights, they can also make it a close fight, All the fighters he had that are able to just box with him, Robert Whittaker and Kelvin Gastelum, they turn it into a war because it's that tall man defense. It doesn't actually work. They just rely on somebody overextending and they lean back a little bit, right? Underrated aspects, though, his chin and his power. He's very powerful. He's very durable. Okay, people look at him and they're just like, oh, he's just skinny. No, he's very powerful. He's very durable. And to add, he is absolutely a very elite striker, a very technical striker, but I just think that he's a little overrated in certain attributes. But the best attribute that he has is probably the narrative surrounding him, because why do you think it is that he's able to go out there and have a staring contest with most of these fighters and the judges are still giving it to him? Because these narratives are so powerful when they hear Joe Rogan on the commentary saying, oh, he's dominating him. And then 2 years later, people still will be talking about how he makes these fights look easy and how he's just going out there having a sparring match and racking up all these title defenses, lapping everybody, as if he's not going out there and having close competitive fights, fight after fight after fight, with the exception of the first Robert Whittaker fight and the Paulo Costa fight, and every other fight in his title career was a competitive battle, but people go out there and talk about dominance. Those narratives are real. This isn't just me hating. These narratives are real, that he's just able to go out there and command a level of respect from the fans, from the judges, from the commentators, to where even if he's not necessarily doing all that much, oh, it's a boring fight, that means Israel Adesanya is winning. He can convince people of that, and that's a legitimate attribute, but I still think he's overrated.